Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the Cam Rogers Show. I am Cam Rogers. It is Wednesday, July 11th, 2018. Got you guys covered for the next hour here on the program as I am live from Dallas. A lot of NBA talk to get through. NBA rumors, Lakers rumors, NBA trade rumors, Kawhi Leonard rumors as well. A lot of new buzz out there since the last time we chatted with you guys yesterday on the NBA program. So a lot has transpired, and we'll start things off with quite a story here surrounding Draymond Green. So in essence, Draymond recently visited Israel and its president. And something Green or the Warriors have yet to do with their own president of the United States, by the way, but we will get there. In a trip organized by Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, Green presented the Israel president with a Warriors jersey, okay? And then posed with a sniper rifle, smiling for the camera, lying prone down there as you see on your screen, and also conducted target practice with the police force while he was there. Now, why am I talking about this, and why is this the top story on the Cam Rogers Show upon my return? Well, for one, the argument is that these counterterrorism border police are part of a military that shot and killed more than 60 Palestinians who were protesting at the border last May. So this is from NPR, all right? I'm reading directly from NPR. So this is just me reporting what the news was. 60 Palestinians were killed along the Gaza border, and the UN Human Rights Commissioner says that they were comprised of women, children, journalists, and first responders. As one writer put it, imagine Draymond visiting the Ferguson Police Department in 2014. He never would have, right? So that was the logic that one writer put out there. Other professional players, such as Michael Bennett, have pulled out of performing these kind of visits because, well, there's slaughter going on both sides. Now, I am not the most educated person in the world in the whole Palestinian-Israeli conflict, but there's definitely tensions on both sides, and you have Draymond Green who's trying to make a statement, right, by not visiting the White House, and he's trying to create change here in the United States, but he goes and visits Israel amid these news reports that Israel committed slaughter of 60 Palestinians. So it's almost like the logic is, and the outrage is, there's this hypocritical nature of the visit. And Sean King is one of the people who has a big-time problem with this recent visit here from Draymond Green. I want to take you guys back to an interview on CNN where Draymond was talking about trying to enact change by not going to the White House in this, at the time, hypothetical situation that the Warriors were to win the title. Of course, they did end up doing that, so it became a reality. But here's what Green recently said on CNN.
I think, well, I know we would make the same decision and not go. And it's, it's not about not seeing Donald Trump or, anything else that goes with it, but more so about what we stand for. And in order to affect change, you have to stand for something. And if you go about it the same way, you do the same things you'll do if everything was normal, then you won't affect change. Our goal is to affect some change, use our platform to do that, and that's why we opted not to go to the White House, because it's, it would just be status quo if we did, and then how does your voice even matter?
All right, so there you go. That was on Chris Cuomo primetime there. So the argument is it's not the best look in the world if you refuse to visit President Donald J. Trump, but you go ahead and visit the president of Israel first and pose with a sniper, presumably a type of gun that was used in that whole massacre that went down. So that's the argument that is coming from the likes of Sean King and these other writers out here, and basically the general public as well. It also brings up another just general question. Should the Warriors visit the White House? Type in 1 for yes, type in 2 for no. At this juncture, I don't think it's going to happen. The Warriors have been very vocal about not wanting to visit the 45th president of the United States, and Donald J. Trump has said himself that Well, he has really no intentions of inviting Draymond and the Warriors. He had no intentions of inviting LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers if they were to win the NBA Finals, and Trump talked about that before an abroad trip. I believe it was like a month ago, a few weeks ago, where he kind of talked about that. So this is me trying to interpret what Draymond Green is doing here. He doesn't want to go to the White House so that change can happen. Sure, I get that. That's democracy. You're trying to make a statement somewhat like a Colin Kaepernick, where you're kneeling during the national anthem, you're trying to make a statement. Use that platform to do that. I get that. But why go and visit the president of Israel amid these news reports and allegations that the military in that country committed massacre of children, journalists, women, first responders, and the like? And I'm just not sure what he's trying to do here. So from a PR standpoint for Draymond Green, probably not the best look in the world, and maybe he will have further explanation as we go forward in the coming days in terms of this visit here. We'll show the picture one more time that the likes of Sean King are not exactly fans of, per se. And I understand both sides of this, like Draymond Green trying to make a statement here by not visiting the White House, and maybe trying to make an even further statement by, instead of visiting the president of the United States, visiting the president of a different country. But I think amid the news that came back in May about these 60 Palestinians killed, couple that with the fact that Draymond Green is smiling with a sniper, it's just not the best PR move in the world for him. But he's free to do whatever the heck he wants to do, so who am I to say that he shouldn't do that? I'm just reporting to you guys what the story is, what the outrage is, and the points at which the outrage is really stemming from. Number one, President Trump. Number two, that news report that I talked about with you guys there. So be sure to let me know what you think about that story. It's been swirling around on the West Coast. This story also swirling. Adam Silver could be doing away with the one and done rule. Speaking after the Board of Governors meeting, told reporters he thinks the league is about to eliminate its age limit and let 18-year-olds declare for the NBA draft, saying, quote, "My personal view is that we are ready to make a change." Now, as of now, players either must be 19 or must have finished their freshman year in college to enter the league. So the current collective bargaining agreement doesn't expire until 2024, but draft eligibility rules can be renegotiated before the next bargaining agreement. So just because it doesn't expire until 2024 doesn't mean that change can happen before that point. And I think change will happen within the coming years. And the translation here from Adam Silver is that it's going to happen at some point, and it really does seem like a foregone conclusion in my eyes. Should the NBA eliminate the one and done rule? Let me know your thoughts and comments. Want to hear from you guys. I know I see a lot of familiar names out there in the comments section, so be sure to hit me up. And there are a ton of qualified players at 18 years old that may not just want to risk the injury of playing in college basketball and making no money, by the way, doing so, or at least legally. Why not just jump that ship, go right to the NBA? I mean, it makes so much sense. And Adam Silver can put so much pressure on the NCAA right now. If he continues to talk about doing away with the one and done rule, the NCAA is going to be like, well, crap, maybe we have to do away with these amateurism rules, right? Where players, get a stipend, a scholarship, they get room and board and all that jazz, and be on their merry way. And when you have the FBI investigations that are going on in the NCAA and all of this stuff, why doesn't the NCAA leadership just say, well, crap, if they do away with the one and done rule, we're going to lose a lot of quality players, subsequently TV ratings and audience and ticket sales, the list goes on. So from a monetary standpoint, and we know the NCAA loves money, folks, why not enact some change on their end? So that's kind of where I'm at here. Maybe Adam Silver, in a sense, is helping the NCAA by proposing that they enact this one and done rule. If the NCAA puts in some sort of policy or changes really the way in which they go about amateurism and players can actually get paid, maybe those players, if the NBA's policy is in place, won't just go to the NBA. Maybe they will play college basketball for 1 year, make some money, get the college experience, right? Because a lot of players want that. You know, I wasn't a potential professional athlete, but I know I would want to have that college experience at least for 1 year. So they get paid, right, with those new changes, and more apt to stay there maybe for the second year and the third year. So I think the NCAA should be waking up right now as we stand, because the NBA is going to make some sort of change pretty darn soon. And if the NCAA doesn't react, look out. They could be losing some quality players in that realm of basketball, going instead right from high school to the NBA. And if the NCAA enacts these changes, they can do away with all these ridiculous FBI investigations, where the FBI can focus on more important matters than players getting paid off during recruiting and all of that stuff, and we don't have to really hammer down on those type of stories because they shouldn't be stories. They shouldn't exist at all, because being paid to play in college basketball is something that should happen, and football is a whole other story too. But I'm just talking about it in the realm of basketball because the NBA could be making some changes to a big-time policy pretty darn soon. We got Z chiming in, frequent watcher. Should have never been installed, the one-and-done rule. That's an argument a lot of people are making out there. Why even have it exist in the first place? And it looks like, Z, you're going to get your wish that the NBA will be doing away with it pretty darn soon. Adam Silver himself can't do it alone, but he can, of course, be that leading surge of the movement of getting rid of that one-and-done rule. So keep an eye on that big-time story that we're following here on the Cam Rogers Show. All right, let's continue along here with the latest NBA rumors. And next up, the Kings don't want Marcus Smart after all. So Jason Jones of the Sacramento Bee reported the Kings' interest in Celtics guard Marcus Smart is, quote, not true. Jones saying, quote, there's nothing to report of interest in Smart. Now, NBC Sports Boston reported Monday that the Kings expressed interest in preparing an offer for Marcus Smart, who is a restricted free agent as we stand right now. And in terms of getting him to the Kings, I think it'd be a nice addition. Strong defensive player. Stats last year, 10 points per game, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. He's the type of player that if a team acquires him, it won't be because they're expecting him to light up the stat scoreboard, if you will. It's going to be more because he is what could be the final piece to a championship puzzle. And as we stand right now, the Kings are just not in that situation. The Kings will not be championship contenders if they were to sign Marcus Smart. So I personally am leaning towards Jason Jones here of the Sacramento Bee rather than NBC Sports Boston, because I do think that there's nothing here in terms of the Kings and Marcus Smart. Just doesn't really add up for me, and may not even be worth the price. The Kings would have to offer more than what the Celtics are willing to match. And, of course, you have the one-year qualifying offer from the Celtics worth $6 million. And then Smart would become an unrestricted free agent next summer. So that could be the path that Smart takes instead, right? So as of now, some conflicting reports about the future of Mr. Marcus Smart, but right now he is a restricted free agent. The Celtics are in contact with him, have extended that qualifying offer there. We'll see if he returns. Now, in terms of Smart meeting with other teams, seems like that is the case as well. The Boston Globe said Smart has met with teams in search of an offer sheet. So the Globe noted 2 teams on Monday, 2 teams yesterday, and also added that these teams are from both conferences. So they're covering both the Eastern and the Western here. And Smart is open, reportedly, to a multi-year deal for less than $15 million a year. Talked about his stats from a year ago. Not too bad. And I think Smart played a really important role with the Celtics since being drafted back in 2014. He shows a lot of hustle, brings a solid locker room presence as well that I don't think a lot of people talk about as much as we should. He's one of those more interesting storylines to follow here as we kind of see the dust settle an NBA free agency season. LeBron has made his decision. Paul George has made his decision. Boogie has found his new team. So Smart now kind of emerges as one of these more interesting storylines that we're going to be tracking for you guys. He is meeting with teams. Sounds like he's not locked in on the Boston Celtics as we stand right now. So the Kings could have been a team that he met with, but as we kind of look at the current state of events for Smart, he's doing his homework. He's doing his due diligence, if you will, going through and dotting his I's, crossing his T's, seeing what kind of money he can make out there on the open market, all right? So Marcus Smart meeting with other teams out there right now. You guys are watching the Cam Rogers Show presented by Autolist. Are you looking for a used or new car out there and you're tired of browsing a million sites? Go to Autolist.com to browse the largest source of inventory on the web or download their top-rated mobile app for iPhone or Android today. You guys are watching the Cam Rogers Show here on YouTube Live as well as Facebook Live. Hope you guys are welcoming me back. I have not read many of the comments right now, but you'll notice I got a nice bronze going. I was at the beach last week, and I think I look pretty fantastic, but I really could be completely off in that regard. So be sure to let me know what you think in the comments section. All right, let's continue along here with the latest NBA rumors. We'll start things off here in this next section with Joakim Noah. Is he staying with the Knicks? So in an interview with TMZ, Noah said that he wants to stay with New York, adding that, quote, "I love New York," when asked about it. Now, Noah separated from the Knicks, very interesting story, of course, in February after arguing with the head coach back then, and the two had to be separated during an argument. So the Knicks tried to trade Noah, but were unsuccessful. He's got 2 years remaining on his 4-year, $72 million contract here, and GM Scott Perry says all options are on the table with this guy, and I firmly believe him. Could be on the Knicks roster, could be traded, could be waived, who knows? And they would use that stretch provision there. Stats last year, not really there. 1.7 points, 2 rebounds, 5.7 minutes in 7 games. The guy barely played this past campaign. In February 2017, this guy has an interesting career. The NBA suspended Noah for 20 games for taking a banned substance, a ban that cost him the first 12 games of this past season. So he has also sustained injuries in his career, right? He's gone through some problems with his health. So needless to say, Joakim is an interesting case right now, and he has expressed interest in staying in New York. Whether or not that is going to be the case remains to be seen. But the fact that the Knicks leadership tried to trade him tells me that New York is certainly looking at all potential avenues with this guy as we go throughout the coming weeks and the coming months for Noah. All right, let's go to the next headline here. And are the 76ers interested in the GM of the San Antonio Spurs? So the Philadelphia Inquirer reported the 76ers are interested in RC Buford to be the president of basketball operations. Now, Buford has been with San Antonio since 1988. All right, it'll be hard to pull him from that organization, you would think. So here is the theory that is being posed out there. Could the 76ers be using this to get Kawhi Leonard to Philadelphia? So 2 sides to this. Number 1, I thought Kawhi wasn't a fan of the organization. So if that's the case, maybe the 76ers shouldn't be doing this, or maybe this theory should not be brought up at all right now. Or 2, maybe Kawhi, in blanket terms, is not happy with the Spurs organization, but he does actually like the general manager. So maybe that's kind of the play there with Philadelphia. They're like, okay, let's try to get the GM to come on over because we think Kawhi, or we know Kawhi, is a big fan of him, and that will get Leonard, in a sense, to put more pressure on the San Antonio Spurs with what, I don't know if there's any more pressure to be left to put on this organization right now as we stand, but to eventually get him to Philadelphia. Now, there have been reports out there that Kawhi Leonard would be open to the likes of the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers, these teams with these draft assets, if you will, that can pull off a trade with the San Antonio Spurs. But as we go throughout these coming weeks here and these coming days, it just seems more and more likely that Kawhi Leonard is going to be a San Antonio Spur this season, right? I mean, I guess the time frame was more, all right, it's either going to happen, a trade, at the beginning of free agency, right at the top, like it's going to go down, or it's going to drag on and drag on and drag on. I don't think there's any middle ground in this situation. If it continues to drag on, the San Antonio Spurs leadership will lose and lose and lose more leverage in this situation here because teams are signing and acquiring other players to fill the void that maybe Kawhi could have filled. So will the 76ers get Kawhi Leonard this offseason? Type in those numbers. Give me a 1 for yes, a 2 for no. If you're saying no, where is he headed? Boston? LA? Is he going to stay in San Antonio for this coming season and just, gut through it this year and then walk into free agency next offseason? Could be a very real scenario there as well. Now, head coach Brett Brown won't remain the coach and the president at the same time. That we know. He took over as president after the whole Colangelo situation, the bad breakup between him and the 76ers. Philadelphia has expressed no interest in keeping Brown as head of operations and head coach. This precedent has proved to be disastrous, if you recall, in past times where this has actually been a thing. So Philadelphia's doing their homework. They're looking around, and the Spurs GM could be atop the priority list as we stand. So keep that in mind. All right, let's talk Carmelo Anthony. So did he meet with Houston and Miami? So we got Woj of ESPN reporting that the Thunder allowed Carmelo to meet with prospective teams. And these teams include the Houston Rockets and the Miami Heat. Now, Melo reportedly met with Rockets and Heat officials at the site of the NBA Summer League, and meeting included the likes of Rockets head coach Mike D'Antoni, who had a rocky relationship with Melo as Knicks coach back in the day. But the coach welcomed the idea of bringing back Melo and coaching him again. Thunder GM Sam Presti and Melo's agent here have been working to expedite a separation between the two. Now, the Rockets need some help at the forward position, especially with Trevor Ariza now gone. Looks like maybe they're going to push really hard for Carmelo Anthony, and maybe Carmelo could have a starting role on that team. Now, Anthony accepted a new role with OKC that featured changing positions from small forward to power forward. And that took some time for Carmelo to really adapt to. And he never really completely found comfort, if you will, playing as a catch-and-shoot stretch four. Really wasn't something that he liked to do. It obviously took him a lot of time to adapt to being that type of player. Although he did hit a career-high 169 three-pointers last season and was credited by the coaching staff for really helping provide space for his teammates on that team. Now, here is where I think the point of contention started. Anthony's role gradually decreased in the postseason, which really was something Melo did not want, obviously. So, more specifically, in Game 6 versus the Jazz, Anthony played only 26 minutes, including just 3 in the fourth quarter. Went on to average 11.8 points in the series, shooting just 37.5% from the field and 21.4% from three-point range. So as the Thunder kind of focus on this core that they have here with Westbrook and George and Steven Adams, there is reason to believe firmly that Carmelo Anthony is on his way out with his hefty salary and with the implications that come along with it. So where to? Where will Carmelo be playing in 2018? Well, perhaps he could be heading to the Miami Heat. Now, Woj sent out a follow-up tweet that kind of describes more, and I'll get to that in a matter of seconds. But first, a comment from Rodney. Kyrie for Leonard. Now, I have heard this been proposed before, and there was actually some buzz out there, I believe it was Sports Illustrated, that brought this up, that the Celtics were, or at least the Spurs and the Celtics collectively, were bringing up the prospect of Kyrie Irving being in trade discussions for Kawhi Leonard. And I just don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, the argument is, well, you could extend Kawhi after this season, especially if he falls in love with the Boston Celtics and the TD Garden and the Boston sports atmosphere, if you will, which is a very real possibility, but not quite as warm as LA, I will say that. And assume that Kyrie could just go somewhere else in free agency. I'm just trying to reason my way through this, and I just don't know if it's going to happen, Rodney. I think the Celtics are in fine position right now. They don't want to do too much in terms of their current roster and trading it away for Kawhi Leonard. Now, I'm sure Boston would be willing to kind of formulate a draft-heavy trade proposal, right? But the key pieces like a Kyrie probably won't be in those discussions there. All right, so that's the latest in regards to what I think about Kawhi. I think that's going to continue to drag on. But with Carmelo, Woj reported that Heat head coach Erik Spoelstra wants Carmelo to join the Heat, saying, quote, Miami coach Erik Spoelstra has been a strong advocate of signing Anthony, who could play a major role for the Heat at power forward. All right, you just recall that I talked about how Melo changed from small forward to power forward playing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Melo is also looking at the Rockets and actually expressed interest in the LA Lakers. So a lot of teams are kind of in the mix here. The Rockets, I told you, make some sense after losing Ariza. Anthony and Houston point guard Chris Paul are great friends as well. Could make some sense there. So Chris Paul can't play with LeBron, but maybe he can play with Carmelo. And I think Melo would most definitely start in Miami. More likely, Melo starts in Miami over Houston. Not saying there's not a chance for him to start in Houston. There is, but it's a better chance with the Miami Heat. Now, does Melo really want to go to Miami over the likes of maybe an LA or maybe a Houston? I think Houston, in my eyes, is the top priority for him. That's going to take some salary cap maneuvering on the Houston Rockets' part, but Melo doesn't want a decreased role. He just doesn't. So I think he wants some sort of promise from these teams saying, all right, Melo, here's what we can provide for you in terms of a starting opportunity. And it's not just about having a increased role, right? It's about being in the right role that which Carmelo is comfortable with. So it's not the catch and shoot thing. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to be the stretch four guy, catch and shoot, space the floor type guy. No, that's not his game. And maybe Carmelo, in one respect, has to understand that it's going to have to be his game going forward. But in another respect, at least teams could still promise him some sort of old Carmelo, what he used to be on the ball. And look, he's not going to be running the show anymore in the rest of his career. Hopefully he understands that. But I think teams like the Heat, like the Rockets, could provide more than obviously what the Thunder would provide him this coming season, because the Thunder would probably give him nada. And it's amazing to me in terms of the money that the Thunder would have paid him or are set to pay him compared to what he would actually be used for. Just does not fall in line. So that's the story there with Carmelo. All right, let's go to the next headline here. The Warriors have signed Damien Lee, the future brother-in-law of Warriors star Steph Curry. It's a two-way contract, sources say, and Golden State has been in search of youth, athleticism, and shooting at the wing spot, and I'd say Damien Lee checks all those boxes. So he was called up late in the season by the Hawks last year after completing 2 consecutive 10-day contracts. Then he was signed for the remainder of the season, and in those 15 games with the Hawks, averaged 10.7 points, 10.7 points in 26.9 minutes a game. Lee went undrafted out of Louisville back in 2016, played much of his ball with the G League in the Warriors affiliate there, Santa Cruz Warriors, in 2017 to 2018, but spent some time with the Hawks as well. So Lee is an interesting kind of piece here. I think he'll certainly be a viable option for the Warriors coming off the bench, because that was the goal for the Warriors this offseason, right? It wasn't to get some sort of splashy player or anything like that. It's help off of the bench, and I think Lee can kind of fill in that void there. And also a nice story here, the future brother-in-law of Steph Curry. So there you go. All right, one more NBA general rumor to get through here. Kristaps Porzingis extension, is that coming? So GM Scott Perry hasn't ruled it out, saying he'll continue to stay in touch with Kristaps. Signing Porzingis to a contract extension by October would cost the Knicks about $10 million in 2019 salary cap space. Now, the Knicks have made some pretty positive headlines so far in the Summer League. Mitchell Robinson, Kevin Knox have played pretty darn well. Kevin Knox coming off a pretty good game where he scored 29 points against the LA Lakers. So things are pointing in the right direction. The Knicks want to be active in free agency next offseason. It'll be interesting to see if Kristaps does get an extension by the time October comes around. So keep an eye on that NBA rumor that surfaced not too long ago.